and then we can formally begin. Again, good afternoon, everybody, and thank you for joining us for another Wednesday afternoon Doctoral Academy. Today's talk is very important. It addresses one of the CHE attributes for doctorateness. One of the things they expect of somebody who's become doctorate is to be able to communicate science to the public. But let's take a step back a bit. Why do we do what we do? Many people, it really is just getting that degree so they can get the promotion or the next job or whatever. But for those people who really do get something out of doing a PhD, there is this task, this giving back to society, this research that you're doing, it'll ask a question that ultimately will give some benefit to society. It's leaving some sort of legacy behind. And to me, I like to tell my students that's what this is about. It's not just the graduation and the certificate. It's leaving a research legacy. So when we're looking at that aspect of what we're doing in our PhD, we have to look at the impact of the science that we're doing. And then how do we let that impact be known to the people we're doing it for? How do we communicate that to society and to the public? So today we've got Professor Emil Kormuth. He's spoken for us before, and everybody knows he puts a lot of effort into his talks. He is the erstwhile Professor of Genetics, Head of Genetics Department from the Pietermaritzburg campus, but he's just never stopped working. He sends me papers to read every single day. He has not stopped thinking. So again, thank you, Emil, for agreeing to talk to our students, and I look forward to what you have to say today. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for this kindly introduction. And we will spend some time together, discuss research impact and communication to public. It is quite very important matter. Before I start play with slides, I want to stress that research communication is a skilled activity addressing a range of audience groups. The skills and abilities to interpret complex findings and distill them into usable information for non-experts without oversimplification and dumping down are essential for your content to engage this audience. Most important is ensuring your content is relevant to your audience. Your audience will want to know how the research is useful for them or how it could change the life of their constituents, readers, and viewers. When crafting this message, it is useful to keep in mind your, firstly, objectives, what you want to get across the audience, the relevance, what does the audience want to know about this story, and also clarity. What could this audience get wrong unless you stress the right information? This is one part. Second part, timing is also key. There can be a temptation to communicate when findings are ready to share and when it is convenient to do so. But information that is relevant to this audience is best communicated when they are ready and willing to listen. Effective science communication, yes, is particularly complex and is highly dependent on what is being communicated. Effective science and technology are embedded in virtually every aspect of modern life. Communications professionals and organizations producing research increasingly face the need to find creative ways to integrate their scientific achievements with their content strategy. Effective science communication is complex, really complex. It is highly dependent on what is being communicated, its relevance to those participating in the conversation, in addition to the social and media dynamic around the issue being addressed. This presentation aims to provide a bit insight into three following questions. What is research communication and why is it important? What makes good research communication content? What is a feature of research communication and where are we heading? Why I can move? Okay. How to communicate research and its impact through contents. The audience, be aware, the audience for research communication, there is a variety of people, yeah, and depending on the type of research, but tailoring the message, content, channel, and timing can be crucial to reach them. Therefore, science and technology are embedded in virtually every aspect of modern life. Yeah? Therefore, this communication is so important. Then is a question, how do you communicate research findings to the public? There is, I think, from my point of view, about 7 points or tips which keep on mind when you want to start to communicate or during communication. Shorten your words. Long words are hard to read. Yeah? Trim your sentences. Scientists tend to use longer sentences when writing. Yeah? Focus on the period. Throw out jargon. Introduce new terms, what it is about. Make it human. Yes, human. Use the first person. You are the first person. And please avoid passive voice. There are a lot of benefit for good communication. Yeah, it can help to boost your research career, for instance. Yeah, it maybe open doors for new collaboration, even across sectors or from another sector. You can attract colleagues from another sector which they can be useful for your research. And what is quite important that good communication can open doors to unexpected, for instance, funder, donor. Yeah, even from some areas you never expected before. Yeah, and what is today quite visible that many application for funding, yeah, there is one column when is a question how you will communicate your research to community, not only within scientific community, to civil community. What are the benefits of science communication? Aside from benefiting society as a whole, communicating outside the scientific community can also help boost research, as I mentioned, research career, be maximizing the impact of latest results, giving rise to new collaboration, yeah, yeah, and everything this you can also be in position of some effective mediator, yeah, between different groups and individuals. They have a finger in maybe public policy, they have a finger in industry or in civil society. Don't underestimate this fact. What is quite important, we can face at different groups of audience. Yeah, we have to tailor our presentation, our findings to different non-expert group, and don't oversimplify, because even within non-expert group you can find a very clever people. Yeah. Therefore, I stress that as a goal and objectives, any communication is that this content you want to present is relevant to your audience. Yeah? Because your audience want to know how the research is useful to them, or how it could change the life of their constituents. What is the impact of science on the society? It contributes to ensuring a longer and healthier life, monitors our health, provide medicine, yeah? In general, make life more fun, including sport, music, entertainment, and so on. As I mentioned in the first, we maybe are able to have a longer and healthier life. Remember me one interview with Mother Queen, late Elizabeth II, and Mother Queen in this interview told the funny life start after 80. Yeah? So maybe this science can contribute to extend our life and enjoy more fun and more entertainment and more activities. What is the importance of research in our society? Firstly, we get to know the way of nature and how our action affect it, which is quite important, how we can damage or improve our environment. Yeah, we maybe have a better understanding of people, yeah, especially in social science, why they do the things they do, yeah, and of course, in general, we enrich our lives. Either we have a new knowledge with regards nutrition, new knowledge with regards technology, business, among others. Then content and formats available to deliver research communication. We have a different, we can find a different, there are a raft of content formats available to deliver research communication, ranging from press releases, question and answer, features, case studies, podcasts. Today, videos you can find on YouTube, quite a lot of interesting videos, but you can use different events. You can use briefings, or you can present your research, your results on exhibition as well. This communication also help you to create maybe some new contact, yeah, with another researcher that are involved in similar areas. You can, with good results and with some good ideas, you can approach another research organization or some another institution. Yeah, what is quite interesting, there is a lot of non-governmental organization, yeah, which can they can help you, yeah, funding agencies, industry decision makers, influencer, this research organization and these educational institutions which can encourage their staff and students to engage, maybe analyze and discuss issue around the relevance and impact of your findings in your research. Yeah, these intermediaries and non-governmental organizations, don't underestimate them. They play a key role in reaching policymakers when research findings are proceeds into policy briefings in similar outputs. Then you have a funding agencies, yeah, charities, and major donors have the power to provide crucial financial support to universities and to research projects. And then industry decision makers and industrial scientists are key users of research who can facilitate collaborative projects on real world problems and often funding. And on the end are influencers. I don't talking about these 20 years old influencers, they play tennis or do a modeling. Yeah, influencers include the traditional media and digital publishers who can reach out to a much wider audience as you can approach. Five tips how for communicating research. Yeah, firstly, know your audience. Focus and organize your information for them. Focus on the big picture, such as major ideas or issues you want to address. As mentioned in previous slides, avoid jargon. Try to avoid technical terms and keep the language simple. Try to use metaphors or analogies to everyday experience that people can relate it to, and underscore how the research can be applied or how it can inform effective policy making. This communicating science really is very complex. Yeah? Its complexity is because of diversity and interconnectedness of its many elements. Therefore, I put in 4 points that there is, you must in this complex put the goals for communicating. You must look on the content being conveyed, the format in which it is presented, and the individuals and organizations involved to listen to you. There is a quite interesting information that very true at this time, and I can agree that few people outside the scientific community consume scientific information regularly. Yeah, yeah. There was in 2000 was some survey, and they are looking how people are looking for new science information. At this time, it was show interest about 18%. In 2016, it's dropped to, it's not too much, but dropped to only 16%, where the people from public say they follow news about science and technology. Some people, it's also dependent on what is the composition of investigation, what's the age of these people, professional and so on, education. Yeah, some people may encounter science as adults. Yeah, and they are looking for some information. Only it is important for their decision making. Yeah, another institution only for relevant information regards maybe to patients, to parents, or lawyers, to policy makers. If you look, the need for formal public engagement, yes, there is a huge need for normal public engagement. Also, some goals of science communication can be achieved through one-way transmission of the information to an intended audience. Yeah. Other goals are best achieved if the dialogue that occurs through formal public engagement are going to public engagement. Such goals is as generating excitement, sharing information needed for a decision, and finding common ground among diverse stakeholders. All lend themselves to public engagement as a communication strategy. In addition, public engagement can be an important way to learn about the concerns, questions, and needs of the audience. This therefore is quite very important to be engaged with in conversation with public. This public engagement is difficult to do well. Yeah. Firstly, if you're doing some research and you are completely swallowed with work via work in your laboratory, it's this process of bringing together many stakeholders and publics is challenging, but sometimes it's very exhausting. Some critics suggest that low levels of knowledge about and attention to science, low levels of participation can make the process unproductive and even counterproductive in some cases. Yeah. Engaging the public may not appear to be essential in some situation, but there are both ethical and practical reasons, and in some cases legal mandates for carrying out public participation in science-related controversies. Yeah, this public engagement play a crucial role. Yeah, making it important for research to attend and to be engaged in this process when this science we want to spread into public. key individual and organizational factors, different audience, different needs. It is also a responsive orientation to science communication means that the needs, abilities, perspectives, and constraints of the audience are considered in the approach taken to communicating. This sectional address, there are three key aspects. Yeah? Firstly, prior knowledge of science. This affects audience in science communication. Ability to understand numeric information. And ways of interpreting new information. Together, these factors help explain why the same information from science can be understood and perceived so differently among different individuals. What is the knowledge of science? How they are able to understand numeric information and how they are able to swallow and then accept interpretation of new information. Then is also social influence, how people interpret science. Little research has examined directly how groups and social contents, for instance, social networks, group norms, group membership, social identity, in which people are situated, influence science communication. Research is therefore needed on how groups, ranging from local governments to civic association up to planning boards, may differ in their attentiveness or response to science communication and the mechanism by which different groups can best be reached and involved as audience or participant in the science communication process. Yeah? If, for instance, some academy focus on science literacy propose that community health science literacy is a concept to be explored in the future research. Yeah, and so research taking social influence into account could take advantage of statistical and data collection approach that could provide a more understanding of group level influence that currently exists. You can see the community may be distinguished by race, by ethnicity, language status, income. This is income is very often linked education level, and their responses may differ as a result of differences, conditions, norms, belief, or experiences. What we can't underestimate, social influences, how people interpret science. Ethnic groups are divided along different political lines with regard to specific topics. Yeah? Really, in some instances, these differences may be rooted in objective experience with science as a contemporary or historically. For instance, there was a huge, after World War II, yeah, the genetic, for instance, in Germany was very suppressed. Yeah, it lasted at least 10 years after this not nice experience. Not only German, also another people from another states, yeah, about different experiments, which was those experiments were scientifically in brackets, yeah, claims that it was a genetic, for instance, investigation. Yeah, so it means there was a historical problem how to overcome this extremely bad period in the life of people, and also it was extremely damaging to science. Yeah. Then another question is trust and credibility of science communication. Yeah. The types and numbers of people and organizations that are communicating about science are increasing today. Yeah. You can see how grow online communication. These communicators include scientists themselves, healthcare providers, government sources. There are people from media, people from industry, a range of organizations, and also individual citizens. Many, I must stress it, many interpersonal factors affect communication between people. For science, however, whose product is evidence-based information, being trusted as a source of valid and useful information is particularly critical. Now, we're coming to science communication in South Africa. This science communication historically started in the 70s, 80s, but it was not at this time so important point of development of society. Yeah, I think that this science communication today, yeah, are focused on research institutions or universities. Yeah, this science communication came in spotlight as a very important factors, I think, in 2015. Yeah, when government was aware that how important is public trust and a role of social media. Yeah, social media platforms started Facebook, Twitter. Yeah, that start a direct communication. Yeah, without previous traditional journalistic intermediaries. Yeah. In 2015, the Department of Science and Technology adopted a new science engagement framework. Yeah, and I think it was very important step because it really enriched, yeah, people's life and also contribute to new development of our society. Yeah, that society which is aware of science, yeah, where is some scientifically which is scientifically literate, yeah, and is capable of some to create own opinions about science issue. Yeah, and this government commitment was highlighted also in 2019. It was white paper on science, technology, and innovation. Not only South Africa, it is a problem of this continent. Yeah, that to promote a culture and understanding of science, it is still a long way ahead. Yeah, why it is not only South Africa as one of the most unequal society, but if you look around South Africa, the majority of African countries, this unequal society is something unfortunately normal. Yeah. So it means how then is a question, if society is able to understand position of research, of science, and how to create, and it is also very difficult then for government, how to create a balance between investment in science and education, and on one side, and on other side is need of society, yeah, housing, social security, healthcare is another huge problem. Yeah. First steps has been done in the 90s, especially via National Research Foundation and the Human Science Research Council. They initiated a few small studies on scientific literacy, how the public is able to understand science, and what is the attitude to science. Yeah. Recently, before COVID starts, it was quite survey, large survey, but what was more linked to just part of science, special to astronomy and biotechnology. Yeah? And the same was how this science, this investigation, how this science is representing in media. Again, it was this radio telescope on first position, and also biotechnology. Yeah, so it means, but nevertheless, it was very good that they do some search in public perception of science, because then disclose and this diversity of view in population, and where is a benefit and when is a risk when South Africa is associated with some science. Yeah, maybe to improve science communication, in 2015 in South Africa was created 2 researchers in the field of science communication. One is at Stellenbosch University. Yeah, there is a researcher in science communication, and another is on, I think, on Rhodes University, where is a researcher in biotechnology, innovation and engagement. Yeah. These 2 researchers focus on different areas in our society. Yeah, but despite all these first steps to improve position in science in public, yeah, there is not still not big satisfaction. Yeah, there is as you can see, some of researchers argue there is a lack of consensus on what counts as success and impact. What is this of all this discussion? Yeah, there is a lack of good evaluation practices. That this survey is poor design. Yeah, and not only here mentioned scientists, but another also call for greater commitment to improve in survey and design publicity for for research from neutral standpoint, and that can be open not only for positive, also for negative outcomes, or not only positive to produce a positive result, but also do some information about negative outcomes. Effective communication of science to stakeholders across society is a more pressing issue than it has perhaps ever been, highlighting ways in which science communication as an area of research and practice has struggled to function as an integrated discipline. Yeah, not only Eric Jensen and Alexander Gerber argue that for science communication continue to develop and deliver impact, it has to become more evidence-based. At its best, science communication can empower research and innovation system to address global challenges. It does this by improving the relationship with stakeholders in policy, industry, civil society, and public. In so doing, science communication can put public interest to the heart of how knowledge is produced, shared, and applied today, consequently enhancing the benefits of science and technology and mitigating the limitation or risk. For this reason, it is imperative that science communication plays this mediating role effectively. However, to continue to evolve, science communication research and practice need to be more closely aligned and integrated into what we call evidence-based science communication. Ironically, just last words, perhaps the greatest challenge facing the field of science communication is lack of effective communication. Yeah? There are high barriers keeping science communication research from being developed and integrated into practice. Yeah? Firstly, scholarly publications about science communication are scattered across hundreds of special or non-special journals. And second, this multidisciplinary field suffers from inconsistent terminology, making literature review and identification of relevant evidence across these hundreds of journals extremely difficult. In practice, evidence-based science communication should combine professional expertise and practical skills with the best available evidence from systematic research. It's everything from my side. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you so much again, Emil, for such a very in-depth discussion. I think what I enjoyed particularly in your talk today is that you took the importance of the communication, science communication, from the individual researcher, where we have to be able to communicate our science as scientists, right to a professional level where people are actually studying science communication and are involved in the writing. So there are international journals that are not scholarly journals, but things like Time magazine would be one of them. And then there was something, I'm not sure if it's around anymore, called Omni, and others where the journalists actually have to have some scientific knowledge. I think it is still important that we cannot abdicate our responsibility to communicate our research to the public. And you made a very good point about the disparities in South Africa and on our continent. And to me, that makes it our job even more important, that we have got such a responsibility to ensure that our science is communicated to everybody in our country. I wanted to highlight an example. And many years ago on television, they used to run a little clip where they said you put a little bit of some antiseptic, I can't remember whether it was Jik or Javel, into a bucket of water in order to clean the water, to purify the water. They ran that for a very short time and then discovered that people were getting poisoned by this. And what was happening was that a lot of people were thinking, well, if one capful clears this big bucket, a whole bottle will do an even better job. And so children were drinking this water with these chemicals in. And to me, that is where the communication went wrong, because that was not a stupid decision that those people made, increasing the amount of antiseptic. They were using a logic, and within their context, they were thinking they were doing something better for their families. Instead of the education program going in to say you only need a little bit more than that is toxic, they just said just put this in with water and it's going to work. So we really have an enormous responsibility to our community to communicate our findings. I'd also like to, I'm going to give you a little bit of an aside. One of my first communications to the community was in April 2003, and I refused to have my name associated with it. It was an article on how to extract DNA from onions in a classroom, and it was run in the Huisgenoot and the U magazine and Drum magazine, and I was incredibly embarrassed to be published in those magazines. But in retrospect now, I would love to have that article to show my grandchildren one day that was communication. And there are just a couple of points I want to add, and then I'm going to ask other people to talk as well, is when you are communicating your findings, there are a couple of things that you should remember, and that is always to remain respectful. Never to be derogatory about any of your colleagues, about any people who are misunderstanding, never to call people names, never to down anybody. Always remain dignified, remain respectful. Also, always stay in your lane. Don't ever start talking. If you are being interviewed on radio and you're asked a question that is not in your expertise, be honest. Just say, sorry, that's not my topic. I cannot respond to that. The other important thing I want to say is here at UKZN, what I would like to see is everybody who completes a project, particularly a PhD project, should write a lay article, and that should be sent to the PR office. You will be able to get help from there, and people can get it in those kind of articles into our local press. And that is an important form of communicating your science. And then my last point I want to add is I've been following a YouTube channel of a literature professor from Oxford, and he often says, you don't know what you're thinking until you write it. And that is so true. If you start writing for a lay audience, you are going to start understanding the impact of your science even better. So again, Emil, I just wanted to add a couple of points onto what you were saying. And I don't know if you want to add any more to that. And then I'm going to open the floor for further comment.
Just if I may just extend what you told. We are, especially in South Africa, we are extremely unequal society, you know, and for many people in this society is quite, I understand it, the priority is housing, transport, energy, hygiene, and so on, and those people will take science something like very expensive toy. Yeah? Therefore, I welcome your idea. You told now that it will be maybe very beneficial for not only for researcher, for institution, university. If, for instance, you can maybe facilitate on the end of some period of some research PhD products, yeah, maybe to meet people from Natal Mercury, yeah, and tell, okay, our students, this is a contribution of our student to society, yeah, to put on black on white how society can benefit, that you are not living at UKZN and some research laboratories like in Tower from Ivory, yeah, and something like that, that really said your research is relevant to life of people of this country, is relevant to communities you are dealing with. I will welcome it. And, you know, as you mentioned, you can also on YouTube prepare something. I'm sure that all young colleagues are younger than one generation from me. So for them, it will be not difficult to create something 10, 15 minutes presentation, which can be delivered to high school, for instance. Yeah. Where we not only encourage the young people to join science community, research community, but via these young people disseminate this information to community. This is my advice.
Yeah, I think it's very important. We've been neglecting it. And quite frankly, if you cannot think about how to write an article for the lay public, then you've got to think about what was the relevance of your research. Did you use resources and for something that's not going to benefit society? And I think when you start thinking like that, you'll realize that every research project has benefited society somehow. I'm going to open the floor for comments. And, you know, how many people have actually written something for the lay press or been interviewed on radio or on television before? It's terrifying. I mean, in the last couple of years, it's happened to me for the first time, and it's terrifying. But eventually you just realize that you've got a message to get out, and that's one of the easiest ways of doing it. So I see, Richard, you're with us. Would you like to comment on this? He's just sent a message. I'm going to ask you to unmute and make a point.
No, thanks very much. And thanks, Emil. As always, it was a fascinating talk. And in the comments, I was just saying what an actually important subject this whole issue of communication is. Unfortunately, the other side of the coin, Emil was saying how much more interest there is in scientific communication than there used to be. At the same time, we've also, thanks to Twitter and Facebook and what have you, seen this absolute explosion of what we might call anti-science. You know, the people who wouldn't be vaccinated. I had plenty of my own medical colleagues, interns, who did not want to take the COVID vaccine because of stories going around on WhatsApp. You know, they preferred to read WhatsApp stories than to follow the medical literature. And anybody who's followed the events, you know, in America during but not limited to the Trump years will be very, very, very anxious about this mood of anti-science and anti-science communication, and the stuff that just not is science that's put forward as though it is science, and a large number of people who'd actually prefer to believe that than to believe real science. So it's absolutely critical that we not only communicate our scientific findings, but that we also do everything we can to improve the level of public understanding and public discourse and just public appreciation of science.
Fully agree.
Thanks.
Yes.
So I think one of the things we should talk about one day is scientific integrity and ensuring that people seek out scientific integrity in what they read. And if it comes off Twitter, it's unlikely that there's much integrity behind it. But what has also happened in the last few years is that there are even well-known journals who have published things that have caused a loss of trust amongst the science community as well. So I think the root is education. And we've got to try and do what we can to increase the levels of scientific literacy amongst the people, amongst our public through our own work. And hopefully, if lots of us are doing that, the public can then start discerning that science that holds its integrity against that science which is misinformation or disinformation, or deliberately created to make people believe something. And we've seen quite a lot of that since the Second World War. It's education to be discerning. Are there any other comments? Would anybody else like to say anything? Veloshni, I see you, you just sent it. Thank you. Would you like to make a comment? Okay, Veloshni might not be able to unmute. She might be driving. Elliot, please go ahead.
Yes, thank you so much. I was impressed by the last sentence that scientists need to be open to both positive and negative outcomes. I was involved in one of the research that was conducted. And when we were giving the feedback to the community about the results, I realized that the scientist who was giving the feedback started to withhold some negative outcomes, which were going to be of great benefit because it was showing some gaps that needed to be filled. But somehow I decided to reveal that there was something that was also, missing, because I felt it was important for the audience to know what exactly happened. So I think it is very important to report the positive as well as the negative outcomes, because they both can be useful. So that is what I wanted to say, that I was impressed by the last point. And also coming to the issue of COVID, I think when disseminating information to the communities, I think if it is disseminated by people who are not scientists, I think it is very important for them to have the real facts about what's going on. For example, when we talk about clinical trials, when drugs are being tested, I think people need to know, and people also need to know, if we talk about the vaccination, what does vaccination does in the human body? When you introduce the microorganisms which have been attenuated, which will not cause damage, but to stimulate the production of the antibodies or something like that. I think it is important to actually let the people know what exactly is happening, because when we are still doing the trials, trying to find out I think that is where you talk about the risk. That is where you talk about all those things, the benefits. But to give the impression that when the clinical trials are still being done, and you give the impression that that is exactly the treatment, because I think there was also some kind of misleading communities when you say, when the vaccines are being tested, people are still waiting for the outcome, but you say, this is treatment, you will get better, it will prevent, not actually giving all the facts. And I think the reason why people were skeptical is because in the public there are people who actually know what is happening, and some people don't know what is happening when these clinical trials are being done. But some people know, and
Yeah.
it's really frustrating.
Yeah. I think it all boils down again to scientific integrity. So Velocity, I'm going to give you the last word.
Thank you so much. So I've had some experience with writing of newsletters and converting scientific content into layman's content. And it is certainly not an easy task. But I think that my greatest help was my reviewers. I've had good reviewers. And as much as yes, as I said, it is a challenge, but once the reviewer goes through it, they point out where your scientific language is excessive, because to the scientific person, this is a norm. So my lesson is have many, the more the merrier reviewers.
Absolutely. Yes, thank you for that. I'm having personal experience at the moment because, I write a lot, and I write in the passive voice because that's how we're supposed to do it. And I've had to get somebody to look at, I've actually got them in as a co-author and said, I know this is boring. It's not going to do anything for this particular audience. Take it and turn it into something that will pique some interest. Emil, I must thank you again for a wonderful talk, an in-depth talk. Your slides are so informative, and thank you for the time you've invested. And to everybody else, thank you for attending, and we'll see you all next week, same time, same place. Bye-bye, everybody.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye. Thanks.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.